The 36 states of the Federation, through their Commissioners for Power and Energy, have kicked against the plan by the National Assembly to amend the Electricity Act 2023 to make the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA, the sole regulatory agency for enforcing technical standards in the power sector. The states have also kicked against the federal lawmakers' attempt to bar them from performing regulatory functions such as enforcing technical standards in the electricity sector in their jurisdictions. The Forum of State Commissioners of Power and Energy in Nigeria, FOPEN, expressed their opposition to the plan in a letter dated December 14, 2024. It was addressed to the chairman of the Senate Committee on Power, Senator Einaya Abaribe, in response to the proposed amendment to the 2023 Electricity Act. In its 7-point response, the forum argued that electricity is on the concurrent list, not the Constitution's exclusive legislative list. By implication, it said both the federal and state governments have legislative and regulatory responsibilities concerning electricity matters, including developing and enforcing technical and safety standards. The forum also posited that the nation's constitution designates states as the custodians of enforcing technical standards within the territories, noting that it was not within the purview of the federal government or its agencies to usurp this role. Joining us to discuss the proposed amendment to the Electricity Act of 2023 and reactions it's currently generating is Dr. Idowu Oyebanjo, Managing Director, ITFON Power Engineering Consultants. Good morning, Dr. Oyebanjo, and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, this looks like a straightforward legal matter. The NEMSA is a federal government agency. One of the major highlights of the amended Electricity Act 2023, as explained in the public domain, is that, look, that Electricity Act 2023 as amended gives powers to states to regulate, to distribute, to set their own standards. And we've seen a number of states, including Lagos State, coming with electricity bills. Now, is the federal government trying to take back with another hand what it had given with maybe perhaps the right hand? Does it make sense? And would this not take us back, in terms of confusion within the electricity supply industry?
Certainly, the Electricity Act has put Nigeria on the right path towards economic development, energy access, and it must not be allowed to be truncated. And from the background given already, I don't think it's the federal government that is trying to take anything back, because the introductory remarks by yourselves was all about the National Assembly trying to, and this of course will be, opposed by well-meaning Nigerians, nonetheless the FOPEN, because this is the kind of thing that makes investors not to come to a country. Investors are watching, and when they see policy somersaults, they will refrain from coming to that country to invest. To be sure, the decision to decentralize and devolve power to the states is the correct one. It has been there since 1979. Somebody cleverly removed it, well, not cleverly, in 1999 Constitution. Now we have gone back to it after 40 years. So it's not good for anybody to truncate it. The states should be allowed to enforce their technical standards within their states.
All right. Okay, I hear you. Now, just to play advocate and just to see perhaps the reasoning behind wanting to make NEMSA the sole regulatory body, could it be, number one, to standardize safety regulations and technical regulations across states? Because they want to ensure that there's a balance, at least there's some unifying means of ensuring that safety standards are measured. Is there a middle ground that can be met, whereby NEMSA works with states to ensure these safety standards? Absolutely.
You struck a very good point there. What you want in any country is uniformity, as you put it, consistency, interoperability. If I set a standard for transformer to be used in Yenagua or in Kano or in Lagos, in that particular country, they can be used. As long as the manufacturers build to that standard, they can be used. So what you want is that kind of uniformity and that kind of standardization, as you have also said. But that's simple. The standards are there. The standard is a piece of document that came about to Nigeria since the NEPA days, 1972, 1960s, when they started. And that's the same document. It even predates NEMSA as an organization. So these standards are there. And all the states, whenever they choose to start their electricity market, because right now we have only 8 states, whenever they choose to start, they are going to use those standards. There is no state that is going to reinvent the wheel. They will use those standards, which should be a common standard. So there's no problem. It is the people who are in that state that can enforce the standards correctly. Because a federal agency cannot, under the concurrent list of the come and say, I'm the one enforcing something that's meant for a state that is having jurisdiction over it. Look at it this way. It is federal government that said, look, this power in the power sector is over-concentrated in the center. So let us devolve it to the state. So what did they do? They say, okay, regulator, National Electric Regulatory Commission, NEC, which is the national kind of regulator, you will cede your powers to the states whenever you deem them qualified for it. So therefore, every such national agency shall also cede power to the state, to the equivalent segments of the state for that to work. Now, they must collaborate. They must coordinate. They must work together. It's not that they are fighting. So it is a country. So we have a common set of standards to be enforced by everybody, but to be supervised. Like the regulations now, the National Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, will be supervising them, making sure that things are going in order. So for the same thing, for this enforcement of standards, yes, NEMSA is there for the national market, but for the state markets, the state government, the State Electricity Regulatory Commission, they will have to do it. Where have they seen this thing they want to practice? This was what they did. Look at the beginning of NEMSA. There is no love lost between NEMSA and NEC since 2015. Dr. Abati must be in government by the time this problem took place. There was warning that that organization shouldn't have existed. There is no place in the world of power systems where you have this concept of NEMSA as we have it. So, it's supposed to be a department inside NEC. And that caused a lot of trouble in 2014, 2015. But eventually, to create job for the boys, they created that entity. Now that caused confusion. Many investors did not want to come. We managed through and we have not seen anything. What's the performance level of that organization? Do you want to ruin this new opportunity for Nigeria to become emancipated by introducing something that will cause confusion?
Okay, thank you for that. And you've partially answered my question, because I was going to ask you, where's the power struggle emanating from? You've touched on it, but I'd like more detail, because you're saying the issue here is the reintroduction of NEMSA, and almost that NEMSA is captured in a way and is being used to satisfy one or two people, who are benefiting from it. Why the sudden power struggle when we all thought we were en route to a decentralized power sector?
You see, I can speak on power systems as it is, and this kind of setup of electricity market in the UK, in the US, in India, in Australia, where they are practicing exactly what we are trying to practice. There is no such thing as this electricity management services authority. It doesn't just exist. It used to be an inspectorate division of Ministry of Power. That's at best where it should be. If you now want to bring it into the regulatory regime, it should be at best a department in the technical division, in the engineering and standards division. Look at it. In every state electricity regulatory commission, they will have a department called engineering and standards. The same way in the national one, they have engineering and standards. That's under that department that this inspection should be. Look at the name, engineering and standards. So it is that department that will be churning out the standards and trying to supervise it. So if they need an enforcer, the enforcer should belong to that department. And this was put forward by ourselves in 2014 when the bill came. The presidential task force at that time refuted it seriously. But overnight, about 12 a.m., because we were monitoring closely from all over the world, about 12 a.m., they sneaked this thing through the presidential villa, and this thing suddenly became an act. And it caused problem. It is still causing an issue now. So they should not introduce it now. There is nowhere this thing is practiced.
Okay, we have, for example, say NAFDAC, Food and Drug Administration Agency, basically to set standards, in terms of pharmaceuticals and all that. But at the state level, you also have that responsibility to make sure you protect your people. But NAFDAC has national jurisdiction. So some people may say, well, if you can have NAFDAC, why don't you have NEMSA too to set standards in electricity? That's the whole thing about, the universality of standards. But let me ask you, these state governments that you say, have been given powers under the Electricity Act 2023, I think the big elephant in the room is a failure in the electricity value chain in Nigeria. Lagos State has an electricity bill, Abia has their own, Ekiti is also generating electricity and all that. How do these states, beyond even the issue of jurisdiction over standards, how do they avoid the failure within the value chain? Collapse of national grid, collapse of this and that, poor service to consumers and all of that. Because that's the residual point.
Yeah.
How do you serve the people?
Yeah. Thank you very much. The NAFDAC example is a very good one because food, that's food. So what electricity is one of public utility services. So it's quite different. So the regulation of public utility services is quite different from NAFDAC. So that example will not fly. But you mentioned a critical point. The whole reason for this decentralization of the power system is because of the failure of all those who are in charge of the agencies. Remember, if you have a complex problem, the best way to manage it is to break it down into small manageable parts. So we have spent 60 years in the wilderness of power in the power sector. So the decision was made, look, we cannot go on like this with this behemoth of problem. Let us go the decentralized way. Let each state be in charge. Now, how do you avoid failure? You must operate the power system and the electricity market the same way the countries that have electricity 24/7 have it. The countries of Europe, North America, United Kingdom, China, and the rest of them. What do? Meritocracy, number one. Very, very important. Once you introduce anything like lack of meritocracy, you will not see the investors. If the investors know who you have appointed as your commissioner of your state electricity regulatory commissioner, if they know that the person is not an engineer to the core, somebody who has worked in an electricity market before, they start to get afraid. Look at Lagos State. Correct appointment. You see, Engineer Odubi, who was working in the UK in the same company as of when I was there too. So he understands market. We were there, we knew how the regulator of GEM in the UK used regulatory mechanism to turn the country around and to make the customers happy. So he will be able to implement that. Meritocracy is one. You must have an independent system operator, in which case every project is not going to be, you must put it in my neighborhood, you must put it in my area, you must put it in my community. No. Every project of the power sector must be planned. They will carry out system studies. They will do system planning that they will know that this is where you should put it. It will also be a payback investment. And so many other things like that. There will be training, manpower development. All of these things will happen if those states take meritocracy to the fore.
Thank you so much for your time with us. Just one word answer. Should NEMSA be scrapped?
It should.
It should.
Talking professionally, it should. 3 organizations should no longer exist in the Nigerian power sector. 1, NEMSA. Okay. 2, NAPTIN. 3, NBET. The 3 of them, they are not relevant in any functional power system as we have them in Nigeria today.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time with us, Dr. Oyebanjo. Insightful, and hopefully the conversation will continue and we'll get the response from the National Assembly, House of Representatives with regards to the letter written.